Hey everyone. So in this video you're going to learn about basic prompt engineering. This is a two-part basic series. I'm going to make intermediate and advanced sessions later. In this example what we're going to learn is some of the basic tips and tricks what you can use in your daily prompting habit to get much better results. In the part 1 we are going to use a illustration based prompting mechanism to learn basic prompt concepts, format and style and things like that. So I will walk you down through different steps to actually how this is impacting the choice of word, how it is impacting your prompt and things like that. So I hope you're going to enjoy this video. Let us start with understanding what is a prompt. If I can explain simply, a prompt is nothing but a set of instruction or a message that you can give to an AI. And this AI we are talking about is like the generative AI technologies like ChatGPT, Copilot, Meta AI, or Google Gemini, or whatever you can think of. You can also think of it like a super smart assistant who follows exactly what you say, but only if you are clear and detailed. Because your assistant comes with a set of capabilities which you might not have, and it is super efficient in returning back this information if we can be very clear and detailed in our instructions. So that is prompt. So what is prompting? Prompting is where you are giving directions to this generative AI. Just like how you give directions to a person, you need to give directions to the generative AI to get the better result. How can you do that? You can be very clear about what you want, provide enough context or background information in your prompting process. You can additionally set boundaries. We will learn about these boundaries and constraints later. These boundaries could include what style of format you like to receive this output, how long you want this output to be, and then you can additionally supplement it with a role. Role is, it could be, you can tell like, hey, I am a chef, or you can say that I want to explain this to a teenager. It can understand all of these personas, concepts and things like that. So let's understand, why do you think prompting is going to be important? Because we talked about it's going to be a super smart assistant. If we can ask clearly, it is going to give us better result. At the same time, if you ask poorly or if you put in a bad prompt, you're going to get a confusing or a vague answer back from this generative AI. So if we learn how to ask this a right way, this is going to first and foremost save a lot of time, and it is going to help us get better answer, and then we will start using this AI more creatively and powerfully. So let us look into some of the key components of a great prompt. We are not going to spend a lot of time on this slide because we have quite a lot of examples. We are going to go through this in detail, but I just want to showcase these elements like task. It could be like you are asking AI what to do. Then you can mention about a role, like we discussed before. It's like a persona. Audience, who is this result for? Tone, how would you want this result to sound like? Do you want it to be friendly or in a funny manner or in a professional manner? Or you can give a context, like the more the context, the better the output it's going to be. Format, we talked about it. Do you like to receive in a paragraph or a bulleted format or in a table format? Style, how would you like it to be, like in a casual blog post or like a professional white paper? Constraints, this is where you're gonna define the rules and limits, like, hey, only give me 2 page sort of information, or do not exceed 500 words, or things like that. Purpose, it is good to give the purpose, like why are you doing this? Is it to teach someone new, or is it to create a new content? The better the purpose, the better the output it's going to be. And finally, you get to iterate on your responses. Iteration means when you get your first output, you don't have to stop there. You can improve the quality of the output or the response by asking again and again, by refining the prompt. On a super high level, what are the tips for great prompting? First and foremost, start simple. by asking a simple question. Then go ahead and add details like why would you want that explanation on whatever things you asked. And then if you want to add additional things like role, be specific, then you can go and iterate and things like that. So we will see a lot of examples today going around all of that tips what you see on the screen. So at the end of the day, prompting is like a skill. It's not a magic. It's a skill you can learn and improve. I'm sure by watching these different prompt engineering videos I am making, you will pretty soon move from an amateur prompter to an expert level prompter within no time. So make sure to watch all the videos. So this is a basic video. The next one is also going to be a basic one. Then you're going to see an intermediate one, work related one, professional one, advanced prompting concepts, things like that. So if I can explain prompting in an analogy, so prompting is like ordering at your restaurant. So if you say, hey, give me some food, you're going to get some random food. But if you say, I want a spicy veggie burger with some sweet potato fries, then you're going to exactly get what you want. So be more specific to get the better result. Next, we are going to go through series of example prompt to understand these concept what we have learned so far. So the format is I will tell you what it is, what we are going to learn. We are going to try out a sample prompt and we are going to go through some what it teaches and what lesson we learned, etc. In this particular demonstration, we are going to restrict ourselves from using one or two or maybe three generative AI technologies, because we are not doing a comparison of this output. We are basically learning the prompting. So predominantly we are going to use the Copilot. So this is the personal Copilot. You can sign in with your email address to use this personal Copilot. Then I will give you some examples on the work Copilot as well. So we in the work one, we have the work and the web tab. We will be spending a lot of time in the web part because we are learning about the prompting basics. And if we want, we can go to ChatGPT or Gemini or Meta AI or DeepSeek, etc. But we are not doing any comparison of the output. So that is not the objective of today. Our objective is to learn the prompting basics, tips and tricks. So let's start with the first one. What is a basic prompt? So if I can go back, the previous example, if I say that I want food, that is a basic prompt. Or summarize a document is a basic prompt. So if we ask a basic prompt, I'm going to ask this prompt in the generative AI tool, create an image of a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. What it's going to teach us is rules for basic prompt, and minimal input gives us a default generic output. So this is a good starting point for learning anything, right? So let's go and start this. I'm going to ask Copilot, create an image of Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. At the same time, I'm going to go to the Copilot web and I'm going to ask the same question here. And let's ask ChatGPT, Gemini, Meta AI, and DeepSeek. And we are not going to compare the output. In the first exercise, we'll probably use all of them. And the next one, we are just going to only use one or two, because we are learning the process of different tips and tricks, the components needed to be a good prompter. All right, so when you ask a question, this generative AI, it's going to take some time, especially for creating video and audio at this point in time. But if you come back later, maybe it's not going to take time, because these generative AIs are evolving so much faster that anything could change at any point in time. So depending on when you watch it, if you try it, maybe it's not even going to take this much time. All right, so I spent about, I think, 30 seconds or so. So this is the image we got from Copilot. It's quite good, looks so adorable. So if I go to Copilot for work in the web tab, we got like 4 different versions of it. I wouldn't say this is like photorealistic. Maybe the model update in the backend is going to make it like more like the Copilot in the future, but this is good as well, depending on what you're trying to create. At the moment, I can't create in ChatGPT because it's saying that because I use the free version, a lot of people are creating, I can't do it. Gemini created something similar to what I got the response from uh, personal Copilot as well. So that is quite good. And then if I look at Meta AI, I got something similar like the work instance, a lot of different version, at least 4 images to I can pick from. And DeepSeek says that I can't create the image, but I can give you some description. I can use other AI tools to create it at the moment. All right, so I'm gonna close the DeepSeek one. We're gonna close the Meta AI. We're gonna close Gemini at the moment. We're gonna close ChatGPT. We're gonna use these two, that is Copilot Personal one and the Copilot Work one, to continue with this exercise. So I'm gonna copy this image. Let's build our PowerPoint along the way. So I'm gonna give or keep the output here. Along the way, when we built it, we can store or copy the output file as well here. All right, so that's the first one. Let's look at the next example. The next, we are gonna learn about how the role and the tone within the prompt is gonna impact the output. So what we are gonna learn here is using the roles to change the tone and perspective of images. So the prompt what we are going to ask is, as an artist, create a vibrant digital painting of a playful Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. All right, so I'm going to ask the question, as an artist, create a vibrant digital painting of a playful Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. And I'm going to go back to Copilot and ask the same question as well. Depending on the complexity, it can take time. So the more and more we go deeper into the prompting session, we're going to take some extra time to generate these images, because it is going to get complicated, because we are going to add more and more elements. So if I can go back to the PowerPoint. So what are we learning here? So this particular prompt is going to teach us role. So in this prompt, I added something new to this particular prompt. We say that as an artist, create a vibrant digital painting. So I'm requesting this generative AI to assume a role as an artist. I didn't specifically say which artist, I just basically told artist. So first and foremost, this generative AI can understand the roles like this. What is an artist, that can understand that is a role. And then I said a digital painting of a playful. Playful is a tone, and it could be a playful, a vibrant, all of these are tone. And generative AI can understand these tonal changes as well. So we introduced two things, a role and a tone within the prompt, so that let's see what's output we are going to get. And the lesson we are trying to learn here is, this is going to shift the style and emotional quality of the image, and the role is going to influence the point of view and depth. All right, based on the question I asked, now I got a response from Copilot Personal that is quite good, like an artistic way. And I got 4 different variation of examples when I asked the same question to the Copilot in the work as well. All right, so what we are going to do is, we are going to copy this image and we are going to save it as an output or an example of the question what we asked in the presentation pack. Let's go and learn the third one. Third one, we are going to learn about format and task specification. Here, what we are trying to learn is specifying the format to guide the output structure. And this format could be, can you give me this output in a sticker format? Or can you give me this output in a portrait format? Or like a stamp and things like that. So the prompt, what we are going to ask is, design a sticker of Cavalier Spaniel with a whimsical background. So let's go and copy the prompt, go back to the Copilot, ask the question. I'm going to ask this in the work one as well. Let's go back to the presentation. What we are trying to learn here is, if you introduce concepts like format and clear task, this generative AI gonna listen to that and put that as a constraint to give you that output. So here we are instructing the model what to generate and in what form. So if you look at it, we told it to design as a sticker format, and we specifically told I want a background with a whimsical background. So let's go back and see the output. All right, so the Copilot chat have created 4 versions. I'm going to go to the personal one. All right, so it created it. I asked for a sticker. I got a sticker back. It looks so adorable. I'm going to copy the image, go back and put as an example as an output for our exercise. All right, so we are slowly ramping up and we are learning new components. Let's go and learn the fourth one. So here what I'm trying to incorporate is style and order of the word. So if you look at the prompt, I'm saying that, hey, use watercolors to depict a fluffy Cavalier Spaniel sitting in a sunlit garden. So if you look at it, I'm including words like watercolor up front. So these placements of these words in the prompt also can be very important. So immediately I'm telling using watercolor, that's a high impact. And towards the end, I'm telling create the image of the spaniel in a sunlit garden. So the last word is also important because these focuses the impact. So whatever you want prompt to focus on, make sure to put these word or emphasize these words early in your prompting or towards the end of the prompting. Don't put that in the middle of the prompt. So let's go and copy this prompt and ask Copilot, and I'm going to do the same thing in the work Copilot as well. So what are we trying to learn here? So here we are learning the artistic style and sequence of words. So let's go back. So that's quite cute. We asked for a watercolor style. This is definitely a watercolor style. And we asked for an element called sunlit garden. This is quite good. Let's go to Copilot to see. Here, if you look at this picture, it is definitely sunlit, but it didn't like emphasized that particular aspect like how it did in the Copilot one. So here you can see in the back end, like sunlight is shining through to the dog. It took that literally. Here it's like a bit more subtle, but it is well lit. So if this is not what you want, this is where we introduce the concept called iteration. You can say that, hey, can you add an element where the sunlight is shining through, passing through the trees and things like that. So then it's going to be much obvious. So it doesn't stop you there. You can constantly go and ask further iterated questions here to make modification on the exact output what you got. So I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. Let's add it to our presentation. All right, so that was the watercolor example. Next one, we are going to learn about detail and complexity. So adding detail and complexity to enhance the image richness. So far we've been adding elements like watercolor, create in a sticker format, add a whimsical background, things like that. Now we are slowly amplifying it. Now we are going to tell that, hey, craft a lifelike digital portrait of a Cavalier Spaniel, highlighting its expressive eyes and silky fur texture. So if you can see that there are quite a lot of detail here. One, I'm telling it to focus on a digital portrait picture, not like a long shot, things like that. I really want a close up. And then highlighting few things, expressive eyes and silky fur texture. So there are quite a lot of elements here, and it's a quite a lot of complicated process. The model have to be really good to give us a good output here. Let's go and copy this prompt and ask Copilot on both. And let's go back to the presentation to see what we are learning here. The more context yields richer and more refined output. We'll see the output to see if that is true. And what it is teaching us is complex instruction and detailed focus. So there is nothing stopping you from adding more complex instruction. So sometimes you don't have to add this sort of complex detail at the get-go in the first prompt, but if you are like quite mature in terms of your prompting, you can add it. Otherwise, you can start slow and start basic, and then you can add more fine-tuned detail to increase the complexity little by little so that you can see the changes. So let's go back to the output. All right, I can see that there are 4 versions, which is quite accurate based on the things what we asked, with expressive eyes and silky fur. Let's go to the personal Copilot. All right, so we got the output based on what we asked. We asked for highlighting expressive eyes and silky fur texture in a portrait format. So that is exactly what we got. I'm gonna copy this image. Let's add it to our adorable collection. Let's go to the 6th example. Here we are going to learn about emotion and tone and how it is going to affect the output. So what we are trying to learn here is controlling tone and emotion through word choices. So the prompt what we are going to ask is illustrate a Cavalier Spaniel gazing lovingly at its owner in soft pastel tones. There are quite a lot of elements here. One, gazing lovingly. Then we are adding another element at its owner and in soft pastel tones. A lot of element here, a lot of emotions here. It's all in depth. It's not obvious, but it is trying to teach us generative AI can understand these emotional connections and soft tone to get us the result what we want. So let's copy this prompt. Let's run it in both. And let's go back to the presentation to see what we are trying to learn here. So what we are trying to learn here is when you incorporate emotions plus tone, and that sets the mood of the image. So you can have only one element. You can say that, hey, gazing lovingly at its owner. But if you add additional tones and elements behind it to make it even more subtler and depth to the image. So we incorporated something called in soft pastel tones. All right, let's go and see the output. Here you can see a spaniel gazing lovingly at its owner. So there is one picture which showcases a it feels like a spaniel is thinking or dreaming about its owner coming back to her in a soft pastel tones. This is quite good. So let's go back to the Copilot Personal. All right, so now we got an image based on what we asked, gazing lovingly at its owner and with some warmth and charm, with some soft pastel tones. So this is quite good. Copy and add it to our collection. Let's go and learn the seventh example. What we are going to learn here is how can you incorporate narrative scenes and visual storytelling within your prompt. In the prompt, we are suggesting that a cavalier puppy chasing butterflies in a blooming lavender field at sunset. A lot of detail. It feels like a line from a book you are reading. So let's see what output we are going to get from the model. I'm going to copy this prompt. Let's put that prompt in both Copilot we've been using so far. And let's go back to the presentation to see what we are learning here. We are learning the narrative setting and composition. So we started off with asking to create a basic image. Now we are adding bit more details like emotion, tones, context and things like that. In this particular example, we are learning about how we can add a narrative setting and composition. If you look at it, it has quite a lot of depth there, even though it is a tiny prompt. We are mentioning about a puppy chasing butterflies in a blooming lavender field. So if you look at it from a deep level, it has so many elements like butterflies, lavender field, and we mentioned things like a sunset. So we are looking for that golden hue as well. Additionally, we are expecting it to be puppy to be cheerful and probably in flight. I don't know, that's what running in my mind. So let's go and see if we got the output. All right, yeah, this is something what I had in my mind, like it's in flight and happy, cheerful, running with some golden hue behind or in some sort of a way. Let's see what personal copilot have come up with. This is quite good too. The other one is a bit more vibrant because you can see that it has a lot of depth added to it because of the color palette it chose, and here it is more subtle. I like this version better because this is more subtler and it has all the incorporated element we asked, and the golden sunset hue in the background as well. That's quite good. So I'm going to copy this and let's go and add it to the pack. So the lesson of that last exercise was when you add these narrative elements, this makes the image more vivid and storytelling based. So it has a lot of depth behind these narrative sort of scene setting prompting. Let's go and learn the eighth example. Here we are introducing a new concept called audience and purpose. So what we are going to learn is how you can incorporate images specific to audience and occasions. The prompt what we are going to use is create a greeting card image featuring a Cavalier Spaniel for a child's birthday. First, let's go and run this, then we talk about the elements of it. And let's run it in the Copilot as well. All right, let's go back to the presentation. So here we have introduced a new set of audience and the purpose. The audience here is for a child's birthday. So we clearly specifying that I'm going to give this greeting card image to a child, not to an adult. So that is a constraint and focuses the attention of the model to make something for that clear audience defined here. The second here is the purpose. The purpose here is I want to create a greeting card image. That is the purpose. So I didn't basically ask for a Cavalier Spaniel image, which I can like probably take a printout and give it. There are two things I wanted to do in this. One, I want it in a greeting card format. Second, it should be something adorable which I can give it to a child, not to an adult. So let's go and see what output we have got. All right, so here, because I mentioned it is to give it to a child's birthday, it added some elements like happy birthday elements and some card and some. This particular one I kind of like because I can add some notes to it as well. So that is quite good. So there are a lot of options here. But in the personal one, you can see this is quite adorable too. It's still not finished yet, but this is quite a good looking greeting card which I can already give. But it nothing stopping you from asking like, hey, in that greeting card, can you add a element of note at the bottom or on the side so that I can write something about it and things like that? That will incorporate that in the image. So you don't have to take the first copy what you get. All right, so this is quite good. So I'm gonna copy this. We're gonna follow the same drill. And what did we learn here? We learned aspect like introducing things like a target audience and it intended use, so the model can understand these concepts. Second, we learned about how can you customize the output to suit the recipient and its purpose. So you don't have to take a picture or you don't have to take an output and just customize it yourself. You can tell the customization to the model itself so that the model can do all the bits for you. The next example is we are going to give creative freedom and personalization to the model. So we are not giving any constraint. So far we was giving constraint like telling, hey, can you do that so and so for my style? If you want to explore the freedom of choice of the model itself, you can sometimes give the full control to the model to give you a specific output. What we are going to learn here is encouraging creative freedom and personal artistic styles. So the prompt what we are going to use is we're going to tell, hey, can you go and draw a Cavalier Spaniel in your favorite artistic style reimagined as a storybook character. So I'm not going to tell which artistic style. I want the model, whatever the Copilot is using at the moment, to pick that. So let's go and run this prompt on both the version of Copilot. And let's go back to our pack to learn what we are learning here. So what we are learning here is, like I said before, encouraging the creative freedom. Here you could very well say that, hey, can you create this image in a Monet style or Picasso style? That's adding a constraint. But if it is exactly what you want, you can add that constraint. Sometimes if you are not quite sure in your own mind what sort of an output you want, you can let the model do whatever it can by giving the freedom of choice. Now let's go back and see the output. This is quite funny. So it says that here is a whimsical storybook style illustration of Charles Spaniel, reimagined as charming little explorer. This is quite cute. All right, let's see what Copilot have come back with. Oh my god. So this is a charming illustration of Cavalier Spaniel reimagined as a storybook character in a whimsical artistic style. And it is asking, hey, let me know if you like any tweaks or different creative approach. So if you don't like this for some reason, then you can probably ask it to modify it. I'm just going to copy the image, add it to our pack. And what we learned here is it added a personal flair and style variation. So if I had to think of this, I have to be exactly sure what I was thinking in terms of how I want. Does it have to wear a robe? What color of the robe? What is in the background? So This time I gave the creative freedom and control back to the model. So model is coming up with its own imagination. Sometimes it is quite good. But if you are quite sure about what you want, you can exactly tell. But now what I would typically do is I will probably take the first prototype and then I will make my own changes here and there to tweak it. So sometimes it's good to give control or freedom to the model as well. So the lesson what we learned here is it allows the model to explore creative directions. That is quite good. Now let's look into the 10th example. Here we are going to learn about iteration and constraints. We were already using the constraint. Here we are going to use the iteration to refine and evolve the image outputs. So let's look at the prompt. Iterate on your last Cavalier Spaniel illustration and add a dreamy surreal elements. So let's copy the prompt. So what we are practically doing here is we are going to ask Copilot to iterate on this image. So specifically telling copy the prompt on iterate and constraint, go back and add the right prompt. So what I'm telling is iterate on your last image. So I'm going to iterate on the output what we got in the last example and add a dreamy and surreal elements. Let's see what it is going to iterate and come back with. Now let's go back to the pack and see what we are learning here. Iteration, you already know what it means. Iteration means you can go back and forth with the model to change whatever whatever output you got. That is quite good. Second is it allows you to add advanced style constraint. Advanced style means I didn't say that hey go ahead and create iterate and change the robe color to blue or something like that. I'm adding complex elements like added dreamy and surreal elements, things like that. So that is quite complex. So it can model can understand that and put that into the details. So the lesson what we are learning here is you can build on top of your prior output and it pushes the creativity. So you already got an amazing output. If you're happy, you can keep it, start moving on to the next one. But if you want to push and see what you can explore further, then I would encourage you to like iterate on top of it. So now let's go back and see the output. All right, so it took an iteration from the previous one. So the previous one was like a charming little explorer. So it took that. It still retained the explorer. I didn't change the explorer part, but it incorporated other elements which I asked to add as a dreamy and surreal element. So that is now the explorer is in a dreamy world. This is quite good. Oh my god, flying pigs and stuff, and imagining about planets and other stuff. This is quite nice. So that is the iteration. So let's go back and see what the personal copilot have come up with. So it took the same element, it changed the background from a forest to a dreamy illustration. I like the eyes, how the eyes have changed. Now I can clearly see that now looking at the eyes, it's still dreaming or thinking about an imaginary world. So that is quite good. So I'm going to copy the image. Let's add it to our pack. Let's go and learn the next example. Here we are adding additional complexity, like we are pushing the boundary to see if the models can understand things like elements within the world, like camera and the compositions, things like that. So what we are trying to learn here is working with the color palettes and compositions. So the prompt what we are going to use is capture a close-up portrait of a Cavalier Spaniel in golden hour light bokeh background. So it has a lot of these elements, like one, the close-up portrait, that's like a camera angle, and then golden hour is like the element within our world, like to see if it understand that. And second, the third element is the bokeh background, is like the blurry background within the portrait. So let's see if we can go and run it and see what output we are going to get. All right, so let's go run this in both Copilot, and let's go back to the presentation to see what we are learning here. So what it is going to teach us is the composition and photography terms. So these are, we are introducing new concepts. In your real world, you can introduce your own concept. If you are trying to learn something about AI, introduce that concepts there. I'm pretty sure these concepts are known to this model so that you don't have to over explain things. You can specify the word, it can give you the output and things like that. The lesson what we are going to learn here is it is going to mimic the real photography framing by just looking at the word and interpret that to create the output for us. All right, so it looks like our image is created. It's a serious looking spaniel for the portrait, and it introduced definitely the bokeh effect and the golden hour and things like that. This is quite intense for my particular style. So let's see what Copilot Personal have come up with. This looks so adorable. I love the eyes. All right, so that's the final output. So I would really love this interpretation of it. This is what exactly what I had in my mind, with a bokeh effect with some sunlit bokeh in the background, the golden hour, and a very close-up portrait of a Cavalier Spaniel. So I'm gonna copy this, add it to our collection, and let's go to the 12th example. In the 12th example, we are introducing elements like accessories and personality. What we are going to learn here is how can we set the mood and ambience through prompt design. The prompt what we are going to try here is illustrate a fashionable Cavalier Spaniel wearing a bow tie and glasses sitting in a coffee shop. That's going to be fun. So here what we are learning here is adding accessories like bow tie, glasses, then a settings here is a coffee shop. Uh, Personality, I just want to see how the personality is going to shine up based on what model is going to create. So let's go and run this. Send this to both Copilot and let's go back to our presentation. All right, so what we are learning here is first and foremost adding elements like accessories and personality. Personality, we want to see like what personality and character design the model is going to come up with. If you are not particularly happy with the personality or the character design, you can always go and iterate. In the last example, I didn't particularly like the personality of the dog in the Copilot work one. It looks a bit intense and serious. I like the adorable puppy eyes in the personal one. So if you feel like it is not shining the personality what you had in your mind, you can always go and change it. But at the same time here, what we are focusing here is the accessory elements. So is it a fashionable Cavalier Spaniel? Is it wearing a bow tie? Is it wearing a glasses? These are the accessories we are introducing into this prompting. And the lesson of this particular prompt is to learn about when you add these elements, it brings the personality and style to the subject. Let's go back. Let's go back to the output. All right, here you can see that there are 4 versions of a Cavalier Spaniel wearing a bow tie and glasses in a cozy coffee shop. Let's see what Personal have come up with. All right, this looks so vintage and like the mood setting is definitely a cozy, but it looks like a vintage looking old school traditional coffee shop, and the elements are shining through. Like 2 elements we asked, the accessories are the glasses and the bow tie. This is quite good. So I'm going to copy that image, add it to the collection. All right, so let's go to next example. Here we are trying to learn if the model can understand these cultural influences and things like that. So incorporating metaphors or abstract styles to understand if it is going to pick up and give us the response. The prompt here, what we're going to use is create a Japanese ink painting of a Cavalier Spaniel in a Zen garden. So if you look at the prompt, it had a couple of cultural metaphors like Japanese ink painting and Zen garden. And let's see if that is going to pick up these elements. Let's copy the prompt and run it. Run this in both the Copilot. Go back to the presentation to learn a bit more about it while that is creating that image. So in this prompt, we are introducing a new concept like metaphors and abstract styles. We asked it to create based on a Japanese ink painting and include that element called Zen garden within that. So what it is teaching us is like you can incorporate things like cultural style and context into your prompt. It understands that. And the lesson what it is trying to show is how cultural context affect the image style. Let's go back to the output. All right, so I didn't know that the Japanese ink painting is purely black and white themed. That is quite fascinating to learn. Of course, our adorable dog is sitting in a Zen garden. That is quite good too, looking really, really nice, impressive. Then let's go to the personal one. Oh, this even looks adorable. I do love the background cherry blossom tree, I guess, but the leaves didn't come out quite well. But I love the tiny lighthouse or a temple, the Zen garden. That is quite impressive. So I'm going to copy this and let's add this into our pack. Let's look into our next example, mixed mediums. Here, what we are trying to learn is directing the framing and layout in the visual generation. So the prompt what we are going to use is generate a mixed media artwork combining pencil sketch and watercolor of a Cavalier Spaniel. So you are incorporating multiple style into one. In a real life, it is quite difficult to do that. You need to have a very skillful artist to do that, and that particular artist need to know multiple skills. What we are trying to learn here is how we can incorporate two or three mediums. So let's copy the prompt and run it in both the Copilot. And let's go back to the presentation pack. All right, so what it is trying to teach us here is multiple styles into one. So in your real life, if you can think of two different styles or two different components or two different activities you're trying to do, how we can incorporate that in a single prompt to make it a cohesive one. And second, it encourages the stylistic blending as well. So in this particular image, what we are trying to do is blend two types of image. One is the pencil sketch element, another one is the watercolor element. Let's go back to the output. All right, so you can clearly see that there is definitely a pencil sketching happening for the outline and drawing of this particular portrait or the image of the King Charles Spaniel. And in the background and on the foreground as well, there is a watercolor elements running through. So let's see what Copilot Personal have come up with. Yeah, of course, you can see the pencil sketching foreground in terms of like giving the outline and stuff like that. And of course, to finish off the touching, there is a watercolor element spread over the entire picture. That is quite cool. Let's add it to the pack. So that's what a mixed medium type of prompting can do. Like you can incorporate two different style or compositions and include that into a single blended mode. All right, let's do a little bit of formatting. All right, looks good. Let's go to the 15th example. Here we are trying to learn action and energy. What we are trying to learn is adding some sort of an action move. Like we learned one, we didn't even specify the action. Like, you know, in I think example 6 or 7, we asked it to use a narrative format where in a lavender field the dog was in a flight mode. That's an action. So here we are combining artistic tools and techniques in the prompt. So the prompt is draw a Cavalier Spaniel leaping over a puddle with ears flapping in the wind. So there are quite a lot of things. One, ears flapping, and I'm sure this should we expect it to be super happy. And the wind element of it, I'm super curious to see how the model is going to incorporate the wind element without too obvious, but still in a subtle format. Let's copy the prompt, go back to both Copilot, and run this prompt. And let's go back to the pack. What we are trying to learn here is motion depiction, like how models can understand these motion or the phrases like leaping over, ears flapping, and things like that. And wind is obviously, when you compare that with emotion, definitely it is an added element to it. Then the lesson, what we are going to learn is adds energy and dynamicism to a static image. So if you incorporate these sort of phrases compared to the first one, what we asked is like create an image of a spaniel dog. Here you're going to get a spaniel, but it's with more energy and dynamicism compared to a static image. So let's see what it's going to come up with. All right, so it's definitely leaping over. It looks so happy. I can see that ears are flapping. To understand the air element, I can kind of make out this by looking at the air and which direction it is flapping. Let's see. The puddle looks really good. Like, touching the puddle, it creates a ripple effect and a bouncy feeling, and that's quite good. The next one, what we are going to look here is how it is going to depict here. All right, so here the element is really good. The ear is definitely flapping. It is retaining the glasses. I didn't ask it to retain the glasses. And it is retaining the bow tie. Oh my god, from the previous iteration. Unless I tell, hey, start from scratch, it is going to retain some of the element from the previous one. All right, that's good. But here, I think the model trying to depict the wind by showing the raindrops, because we said the puddle, it added another element called raindrops, and the raindrops is landing and falling in a particular direction because of the wind. So that actually emphasizes the motion and the element of wind there and stuff like that. So that is quite clever. With a small prompt like that, what we could achieve was amazing result, I would say. All right, so let's copy this image and go back to the pack and add this. The next, what we're going to learn here is environment setting and lighting. Experimenting with the genre based prompt like fantasy, comics, etc. The prompt what we are going to use is a Cavalier Spaniel sitting by fireplace in a cozy cabin during a snowy evening. There is quite a lot of depth there. The first one is sitting by a fireplace. Second is a cozy cabin, so I'm imagining like a woody texture. That is what running in my mind. And during a snowy evening, so I'm expecting it to showcase any sort of window with some snowing element in the outside and things like that. So let's see what it's gonna come out with, and let's run this prompt in both Copilot. Let's go back to the pack to see what we are learning here. So here we are definitely learning an environment setting and lighting and things like that. This prompt is quite short, so I couldn't add much details in it. But even though I retained some essence of, like, sitting by a fireplace, I'm expecting the model to pick up the fire glow or that essence into the picture or on the face of the dog. And I'm expecting details like environment, like a cozy cabin. So I'm expecting elements like a woody texture, things like that. Even though I didn't specify that, I should be specifying that if I really looking to see that in the image or in the output during a snowy evening. So I'm definitely expecting some sort of an element to interpret that it's a snowy evening. It could be a window, it could be, I don't know, some shape or form to address that it's a snowy evening. So what we are learning here is the mood via lighting and environment, and lighting sets visual tone and emotions. Let's see the output. All right, so this is something what I had in my mind. So sitting in front of a firelit and some fire glow on the face, that is quite detailed. This is on the back rather than on the face. That is quite clever. Obviously, there's a window element on all the picture depicting that there is a snowy evening outside with some snowfall or like a snowfall on the ground. Second one is finishing up the final touches. It's already looking good. It's done. Definitely, there is a window element to it. I can see that the snowfall depicting really well, showcasing there is a snowfall out there. There is a fireplace, and the glow is being shined not only on the picture, but is that water on the floor? I don't know. Why would there is a water on the floor? Maybe puppy spilled some water on the floor, and definitely I can see that either it's a shiny floor. I don't think so. Definitely not a glass. Maybe it's water. So it is definitely shining over that. So that is quite good. So I can copy that image and add that to the pack. Let's do a little bit of formatting. By the way, you can access this prompt book or the prompt content along with this, and I'm going to add much more further details into the prompt, like intermediate, advanced, so you can download all the pack at once from the download folder in my coffee shop. You can probably find the link of where to download in the description of the YouTube, or you could find that definitely in my blog when I upload this video. Let's go and learn the next example. This one is temporal shift and scene time. This prompt is helping us understand the prompting with seasonal or time based context. So, the prompt what we are going to use is depict a Cavalier Spaniel taking a morning nap in a sun drenched window nook. So, we are incorporating elements like morning nap and a sun drenched window nook. So let's see what output we are going to get. Let's go back to the presentation pack. All right, so what it is trying to teach us is like when you tell this temporal shift or scene time, Copilot or the model in the backend can understand that, like the time of the day. It says that morning means like the sun should be coming in a slanting direction. So we don't have to specify that. Like time of the day is enough for the model to understand that. And the lesson is the temporal setting influences the shadows and the warmth of the picture. Let's see what the output is. Oh, that's so beautiful. Wow. So these are so good. I love the golden hour or the sunshine coming through the window. I love how cozy this place is. Oh my god, so beautiful. Yeah, let's see what the other Copilot have come up with. It is definitely good, but it is quite simple. I like the fact that this incorporated few other elements like books. It looks like someone else's space, but the dog is probably missing or enjoying the spot of the owner. I, for some reason, I love these pictures from the Copilot. The work one, even though this one is quite good, this looks like a painting which is drawn from based on the previous examples we have given. So I'm going to copy the image. But if for some reason I like these elements like by the window, having some pots of plants on a cushion with some books on the side, I can probably tell that. So I can probably tell that. So here I'm moving away from a short prompt to a detailed one. So I'm adding few more elements like include elements like add some books near the dog sleeping on a cushion next to the window, pots of green plants near the window, etc. All right, so compared to the previous one, it added some elements to it. Like this was quite bland. So based on our input, it added its a couple of books, couple of pots next to the window, and it retained the same style of painting format. So I'm not gonna explore further. You get the idea. You learn some things along the way, like adding or modifying or iterating on your existing prompt and things like that. Let's go and add it to our pack. The next one example we are going to learn is abstract and stylized. So here what we are going to learn is eliciting whimsical or surreal outputs using creative modifiers. So the prompt is create an abstract geometric style Cavalier Spaniel inspired by Picasso. Let's copy the prompt. Let's go back to the model and run these. Let's go back to the pack, and what it is trying to teach us is the abstract art format and inspiration, and pushes the model's creative interpretation and boundaries. Here we are pushing the model by telling it to create an abstract, just use your imagination, and we are adding style here, like telling it follow a geometric style, and then adding one more element or a style, incorporating a style by telling use Picasso's format. So the model have to understand quite a lot of things to do this. Let's go back to the output. Wow, this is quite good. So that's a geometric format and in the style of a Picasso color palette. This is quite good. Now if I go back, all right, so the output is done. You can clearly see that this is exactly what I asked. If I need any fine tuning, we can always ask to fine tune it. Again, it's incorporated the elements from the previous image like the pot, the books and stuff like that. So if you don't want the elements to cross over between different images, make sure you open a new chat to do that. Even if I specifically saying it is not obeying. So anyway, we are not comparing the model, we are just only learning the prompt. When we do the model comparison and the things to do and tips and tricks, we will talk about that aspect. Let's copy this, go back to our pack, add this into the pack. Let's do a bit of formatting and let's go to the next one. The next example is mood board or visual theme. Here we are exploring advanced prompt stacking with constraints. So the prompt is design a minimalist mood board featuring textures, colors, and sketches inspired by Cavalier Spaniels. So this is teaching us the design thinking and the theming aspect of it. And this is quite useful for product design and branding prompt, things like that. Let's go and copy this prompt and run it in both our Copilot. Here couple of things we are exploring here is one, we clearly told we want a minimalist mood board, not with so much details, and additional features like textures, colors, and sketches. And these are all inspired by the Cavalier Spaniels. So let's see what design we are going to get. All right, so this is quite cool. It followed the same texture color palette. I loved the way that it used the color palette of the Charles Spaniel, like the white, the brown, and the kind of orangey palette. Let's see what the personal Copilot have come up with. Wow, this is definitely more elegant and cozy compared to the previous one, and quite minimalistic too, because we emphasize the fact minimalistic. So let's go and copy the image, add it to our pack. And the last example, what we are going to learn in this basic prompting is comparative prompting. So what we are going to learn here is practicing prompt optimization through example. So the prompt what we're going to use is generate side-by-side images of a Cavalier Spaniel in both oil painting and charcoal sketch styles. So this is going to show the comparison power of our prompt technique. Let's copy the prompt, run it in both Copilot. All right, so another prompting technique is this definitely we are going to learn more examples on this comparative techniques in the future sessions, because this is quite a basic one. The next one also will include some of these techniques. I use this model of prompting quite a lot in my studying a particular technology or trying to understand a certain aspect of something. So this is something which I use a lot. So what it is trying to teach us here is the style and contrast and comparative output. It is good to actually look at the two different pictures to understand the comparison. It goes along with same if you're trying to purchase a solution, if you're trying to buy a phone or whatever, or a car, it's good to use a prompt to look at the pros and cons and try to spot the differences between two things what you're trying to compare, things like that. In this lesson, it demonstrates the visual variety in execution. Let's go to see what output we have got. All right, so here we have for comparison between an oil painting versus charcoal sketch. Quite good. Serious looking vintage style spaniel. The next one is quite good too, because it already took the oil painting, and the new one it added is the charcoal sketch. So I'm going to copy this image for the comparison, and we're going to add this into our pack. Let's do a bit of formatting. Let's add it to the pack. That is quite good. So I hope the information provided in this helpful. So what I am doing right now is I'm going to create one more part 2 of the prompt engineering with some real life examples. So please do check out the next one as well. So in this, we learned some of the concept through going through the picture creation or like elements on looking at certain things by looking at things. The next one, we are going to learn a lot of concept by doing certain prompt on real life examples, on getting some output based on text, things like that. So if you are interested, please do check that out. So I will see you on the next one. Take care.